Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Blues Talk. Again, John, Dave and myself are going to look back over our dire performance against Munster and look back at all the other results of the weekend and look forward to our game against Ulster in the RDS. So boys, it was just mistake after mistake. It was dropped balls, knock on. Was any line out hit? Rook's been turned over.
I think they might have hit one or two. Yeah, it was fairly bad. The only thing is we were on top. Let's get the positives out of the way. We were on top in the scrum until BJ Botha came on. It seemed like anyway.
He played without his jersey.
And was that not Stander? Oh, it was both of them, was it?
Both of them, yeah.
Both of them. Anyway, moving swiftly along.
Listen to your daughters.
Your jokes are as bad as the performance.
we were fairly humbled. It just, where do you go from there? Again, other positives perhaps we mentioned last week. Tyg Furlong had another decent game. Conan had a decent game, which is good. Young guys having decent games, but outside of that, there wasn't a lot of. Somebody said that Luke Fitzgerald had more caps, has more Ireland caps than the whole of the opposing team. That was not, a performance that reflected that fact. Seeing as we had various other.
Yeah, like I just had a look at that. Dennis Hurley has 1 cap, Ian Keighley 3, Archer 2, Tommy O'Donnell 6, Copeland 1, Felix Jones 9 caps.
It doesn't matter how many caps any of the players have if they don't bother their arse trying. I mean,
agreed, yeah.
To a certain extent, I don't know if you're familiar with the kind of the horror film series, The Human Centipede.
No.
It's basically this guy kidnaps all these people and stitches people's mouths to the person in front of them arses, so they have to eat the shit of the guy in front of them.
Oh,
and basically,
charming.
Every time we watch Leinster now, it's just one more mouth been stitched to somebody else's arse because it's just shit. It's just pure, unadulterated shit.
I don't know what to say to that.
That's not a nice image, Dave. Thanks. But yeah, I get your point.
Well, it's the same stuff. It's been regurgitated week after week after week, and each week down is just another link in the chain. I mean,
but isn't it sad? Like, Conway's try, for instance, it just they looked disinterested trying to tackle him. Like, they just bounced and ricocheted off player after player to get over the line.
You can say what you like about the coaching situation. I'm sure we'll come and talk about that later. You can say what you like about the tactics, or whatever.
Coach doesn't miss tackles.
Do rugby players
knock it on
these rugby
all
players?
the time.
Do they not have any professional pride in themselves?
There's a bit of that, all right.
But like, I saw something written on Leinster fans, and someone said, "Do we not practice all week?" Like, it looks like
we don't.
It looks like the players aren't practicing their skill levels because
maybe it's the secrecy thing again. Maybe they're trying to keep the game plan so secret that even
the
our players don't know what it is.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, how much practice does a lion need to be shown how to tackle?
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly it's not as if Conway is renowned for his tricky footwork. He's pretty much he has one thing and he does it well, but it's still only one thing, and it's pretty easy to stop if you know what he's going to do. But you see, the thing is, Munster wanted that game more.
Well,
I said
the last one.
I said it before, and again I stick to it. I mean, the result doesn't change the fact that if Leinster played in any way well, Leinster would have won. But Leinster didn't play in any way well. And that's where Munster took advantage of it. I mean, Leinster are not playing well at the moment. They're playing very, very poorly. We thought maybe a corner had been turned at the Connacht match, but
gone back around and
the thing you find about corners is if you turn too many of them, you end up back where you started. And kind of this is where we are. We're back where we were before the first Quins game, really, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
But we never looked like we were going to win that game. Up to Jennings' try. Like, Jennings scored a try in the 70th minute, I think.
Yeah.
And it was 28-6 at that point. Like, we just never looked in contention in the game.
Mm-hmm.
We did nothing. We did nothing to look like we were going to be in contention again. We put a couple of times we got into the Munster red zone and we put a few phases together, right? Then the mistake came, the inevitable mistake came, and we ended up going backwards again. We showed no guile, no depth, and the thing is, even if we had the world's greatest idea of how to break Munster down, the way the players were dropping passes and missing passes and doing stupid things, it wouldn't have mattered what game plan we had.
Even when we struggled to get into their half, and then when we eventually did, we got a penalty. We got 3 points almost from the kickoff. We conceded a penalty, and all that hard work that we had to struggle to get those 3 points, they just got it. So stupid penalties from Murphy, I think, was that one, and then there was Fanning jumping in and getting sin binned as
Well,
well.
the one I would excuse is the Fanning one because that wasn't a penalty. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, it was not a penalty, but every other one of them was.
It was arguable whether it was a penalty, but it was certainly very harsh to give it a yellow card.
But every single one of the rest of them was. So the point is still valid. I mean, that one, as it happens, as an isolated incident, was just the ref made a bad decision, but he got everything else right. But yeah, I mean, we were talking about the Connacht game after the Connacht game, how good it was to see us, secure in our set piece.
Yeah.
And look what happens. Dundon is left on the bench for far too long, and our line out goes to pot because for whatever reason Strauss couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo, and Cronin can't even see the cow. I mean, it's hard. I'm not one of these guys who's kind of jumping to get rid of the coach. I have a target in mind for this season, and while that target is still attainable, then I don't think there's any point in getting rid of the coach. Yeah. But that still doesn't excuse performances like that. It still doesn't excuse basic incompetencies, and it still doesn't excuse, selectorial mismanagement.
Mm-hmm. Well, an element of it has to come down to the coach, as we say every time. You got to have a game plan, and you got to have a game plan that the players believe in. And if you have a game plan and the players believe in it, then you've some chance of motivating them to play, because you've got to put your body through a lot. We all know that.
Well, the
story there.
Luke Fitzgerald came out on the 6-1 News and very much defended O'Connor. And he basically said, "Well, he's as good as coaches we've had in Leinster in the past."
And see, the thing is,
I know that he has to come.
I know, but the guys who are coming out to defend him are the guys who could get rid of him. Luke Fitzgerald is a senior member of the team. He's a senior player in the club. Shane Jennings is a senior player in the club. He is, to all intents and purposes, the leader of the players. And there's been others as well. I mean, there doesn't appear to be any internal push to get rid of him.
We don't know whether there is or
not. We don't. But all we can do is
let's put it this way: 10 years ago,
we all knew Gary Ella was dead man.
Exactly. There wasn't too many people coming out. You didn't hear Dricko, Horgan, Dempsey or Disco Den coming out and saying, "Oh no, he's the man for the job." I remember being at.
They defended Declan Kidney.
Well, did it? Drico came out and was very hypercritical of him and the players actually said that they didn't want him to remain after they've heard that he was going back to Munster.
The players were.
No, I meant for Ireland. Sorry.
Oh, for Ireland, yeah. No, but for Leinster, they couldn't wait to see the back of him, and they made no effort whatsoever to hide their disdain for Gary Ella. I mean,
I remember being at a farewell dinner to Gary Ella, and one player turned up, and he was quite annoyed, disappointed that. It was only Darcy came in to actually say goodbye to him. None of the other guys even bothered their backside to do it.
So this is a core of players who know how to get rid of a coach if they need to.
Yeah, well, like the rest of us, I'm sure they're, what's the point in try? There's a lot of people saying, get rid of him, make him go now. Like, what are we going to do if we get rid of him now?
You don't want to become a club that has that reputation because you find it harder to attract people. And the other side of it is,
you want to have a plan in place, and you want to have a new coach on the way, and that's not going to happen.
The other side of it is, a lot of these players remember the last time they lost back-to-backs against Munster.
At best.
And we're playing, and we're
cast Harlequins.
And we're playing this badly. We were playing this badly back in 2008, 2009. So there's guys who are thinking, well, okay, I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm not saying that history is going to repeat itself. But what can repeat itself is the fact that things can be turned around.
Yeah. And do you know what I was thinking about today? I was trying to think of a game that kind of epitomised the good in the Matt O'Connor regime. And you can't really pick Northampton, because that wasn't a typical Matt O'Connor game. It was a brilliant game, the one where we threw the ball around and blew them out of the water. But a game that I think was positive and was kind of epitomised Matt O'Connor's tenure is the away game for Ospreys in the Heineken Cup in the first season, which was a Bosch game. It was a game, the thing is that we had O'Brien, we had Healy, we had Sean Cronin. We had all the obviously we had Brian O'Driscoll, but we had all the lads.
Actually, we didn't have him for that match.
Oh, sorry, we didn't have Brian O'Driscoll, but we had those. They're the guys we're missing now. We're missing O'Brien and Healy, and we blew in the face.
That's the problem. I mean,
but in that game, we didn't throw the ball around. We didn't score a million tries. But we comprehensively dismantled the Ospreys in their home patch. think the score was 19-9. And we did it with Matt O'Connor's game plan. So, while I'm not a massive fan of the game plan, it is effective when done right, but it depends on certain things like those ball carriers being available. If they're not available, and that's one of the big downsides of the game plan, if they're not available, we're out of ideas.
Because to tie what you're saying back into last week, or the game on Friday, right? After 2, 3, 4 phases against Munster, we were looking for the big carry. And it wasn't there because the player wasn't there, or you talk about those 3 big ball carriers. Now Cronin, to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't have selected him because of his other flaws, but he's a great ball carrier.
Yeah.
Sean O'Brien, great ball carrier, not there. Keane Healy, big ball carrier, not there. So you're talking about all your go-to guys gone.
And Ruddock.
And Ruddock as well.
He was the other one I was thinking of. He was, I think he came off the bench in that game.
There are elements. There are, and you see that's the thing. I mean, there are. I don't want to use the word excuses, but there are elements of that O'Connor can look at and say, well, A, B, C, and D are happening.
Yes, but if it was another coach, he'd have a different game plan to suit that situation.
He'd say, well, look,
and he doesn't.
I can't implement this game plan because my resources aren't there. I've got different resources. I have to use them in a different way.
Yeah, so let's see the different way.
And that's not that clever. That's just straight in the bleeding obvious. And it just seems that we're sticking to this formulaic way of working, and it isn't working. It's clearly not working. But the only thing is that when you do hear Luke Fitzgerald coming out, like he was, he's putting the emphasis now. Hopefully the players are as well, back firmly in the players' court.
Yeah.
Now maybe they're trying to just take a little bit of pressure off O'Connor. I don't know, but the players now have to look inside themselves and say that performance in Limerick last weekend is not acceptable. It's that's like going back 10 years. We've regressed that far back.
And because one of the reasons that we admire like the current Leinster team, or we'd say the current era of Leinster team, is because of the players, because of the way they take responsibility onto themselves, the way they've stood up themselves over the last 5-6 years and become European champions through their own efforts. I mean, they've had good coaches, but the players have to want it as well, and they have had. So one of the elements that disappointed me most about Friday was the fact that the players seemed so diffident, to what was happening.
Here's a point now, and I saw it brought up by somebody, that maybe Ireland, from a Leinster's point of view, are superseding the importance than the Leinster club. Almost the opposite of what was happening in Munster, insofar as that Munster was nearly taking preeminence over Ireland, going back to the famous Rob Kearney in the hotel down in Westmeath. Maybe Ireland is a greater emphasis on playing for Ireland by some of the core of Leinster players.
Yeah, in some ways you'd say rightly so.
I would say over the next 9 months that is inevitable, with the schedule that's ahead of them. It still doesn't excuse basic incompetence though, because playing like that won't get you onto the Ireland team. Playing like that will get you off the Ireland team. So I mean there's swings and roundabouts to that argument.
Well, you said it a few weeks ago about our game plan seems to be not to play any rugby between our goal line and their 22, and kick the ball up and
the difference
kick
is now
it long, don't chase it.
On Friday we didn't play any
come
rugby
up
in their 22 either.
No, we didn't get to. But
so it's now total rugby.
Yeah,
totally crap.
Total anti-rugby.
But shifting the point of attack, offloading. Look at the Osprey. I watched the Ospreys game today against the Scarlets, and in the first half, they were throwing the ball around. Throwing the ball around is an exaggeration, but they were offloading out of the tackle. So there's a phrase that you could not apply to Leinster this season.
I can't remember line breaking.
I can't remember them offloading out of the bloody tackle. There
was one line break, I think. I think we made one line break in the entire match, and there was one offload which actually led to a try. But that's it. I'm not so sure about the offload. I mean, we stopped offloading in 2012. The offloading game was our game in 2011, 2012. And then 12-13 we stopped offloading. We moved to a passing game rather than an offloading game. Maybe that's because we didn't have Nathan Hines anymore. I don't know. But we changed our game. Because, that's what Joe Schmidt did. He said, right, now they've worked us out. They've worked out. Well, not that they've worked it out. They worked out how we're going to play. So we're not going to play that way anymore. And they played a different way.
It's like Harrington, in some respects. Harrington had won 3 majors, and he goes back and he tries to reinvent his swing.
Yeah, but nobody's playing against him, trying to stop him swinging.
No, but the point, exactly. But that's the thing that he tries to get better and better. Because if you just stand still,
Yeah,
all
they're
the others
going
catch
backwards.
you and
Yeah.
they eventually get in front of you. And that's what Harrington tried to do. And that's maybe what Ireland or Leinster tried to do under Schmidt in his final season. But the point remains that we're stagnating at the currently.
At this point in time, we are. At this point in time, I mean, we're talking about, you know, goals and things that. I mean, I've said it before, and I still don't see any reason to change it. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, unless O'Connor gets Leinster to a Pro 12 final and a European semi-final,
We should be at least looking.
that's what I consider to be the minimum acceptable. You know, and that's if it becomes a situation where that's not reachable, then it's time to say, you know, sayonara. But at this point in time, he's still on track for those things. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, you know, we've 4 games coming up, and you know, it seems like every bloody game now is a must-win game. But like, it literally is now. It's we've got 2 Pro 12 games and 2 Heineken Cup games, and unless we win all 4 of them, we're in trouble in one or other competition.
If we don't, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I mean,
we're out of the.
we could be saying goodbye to Matt O'Connor in 4 games' time, because he wouldn't be able to reach his goals. You know, because whatever about what are my goals for him, I'm sure Branch have goals for him, and I'd be very surprised if they were very different than mine. So you know, are they going to hang around, hold on to him to the rest of the season?
Well, I think the team have enough in them to get through these games. Whether they win all 4 of them is another matter. But they've enough in them to get through these games and get us to a position where we get all these ball carriers back. Which, let's face it, if they might get them in dribs and drabs over the next 4 games. But you know, if we can get to a position where we're still in both competitions coming into the Six Nations and we have all those guys coming back, that's pretty much the target. And to do that, we need 4 wins. So over to you,
Yeah, well,
Matt O'Connor. And let's hope you do it. And just one more point on Matt O'Connor. I'm not very tolerant of the opinion of, I hope we lose the next game just to get rid of him quick. Those
people should be taken out the back of the
irritates
stands
me.
and given a kicking.
I would rather that we turned it round and even if it gave him another year and we had to and he fell apart in next year, I still want the bloody team to win. I still want the team to win a title this year, whoever is coaching us. You know, and the whole thing of letting us lose a couple of games to try and get rid of a coach, that it's just rankles with me. I can't.
Oh, I'd agree with you. It would. I think they'd be rankers too.
Anyway.
yeah, well, like we did manage to score a try this week anyway. So when we look at Jenna's try, it was one of the few times that, as you said, Dave, that we actually got a line break and an offload.
Yeah, I mean, this is about, I don't know how many phases into it where we've done not an awful lot with an awful lot of ball. We've just basically gone from left to right without.
We seem to be always in these positions.
Without putting Munster into much, you know, under much pressure. It's at this stage, McGrath and Gopperl have come on, who did seem to speed things up a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Um,
Do you know what it was? It was Madigan. When Madigan was getting the ball, he didn't have time to. He had 3 or 4 Munster players on him each time, and he didn't have time to offload. So he took it on himself nearly every time, and they knew he was going to take it on himself, and they rushed him so he'd have to take it on himself. Anyway, nice. Jenno got in there nicely.
It's nice work from Conan, yeah.
Yeah, he, as we said, he had
Strong arm,
a decent game. Yeah,
strong arm and a good offload. You know, I thought he was, you know, Conan, Furlong, Bent.
he's good at the little reverse offloads. Here he goes.
Played well. Not a whole lot else did, but those guys can, you know, they won't be too worried about the video session this morning.
Having big hands helps.
Yeah.
Nice little back row move.
Yeah, but it still just put a little bit of
gloss
on it.
Oh,
Otherwise,
it's just
very
it's
disappointing.
lacquer on a turd. That's what it is. It's lacquer on a turd.
But still, that result and on the other results, it really kind of left the table pretty much the same. The top 3 remained the same. Ulster leapfrogged us.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of effort over Christmas for no change whatsoever.
Yeah, well, you know, it's just the fact that the league is so poor this year. Generally, the Welsh teams were in hell for up until the middle of the summer. They didn't know what bloody hell was happening. And they seem to be coming back from it now, but they started from a very low base at the beginning of the season. Irish teams have gone backward. None of them are playing that well. I mean, Munster are the cream of the crop, and they're they're bloody good, Pro 12, but in Europe,
Well, they're in
they're
a bitch of a group.
well. I don't mean that they're in a bad position in their group in Europe, but I just mean up against the top teams in Europe.
But they're in a bitch of a group.
Absolutely,
Like,
absolutely.
if they were,
we were in their group, we'd be.
But if they were in our group, I
they'd
bet
be
you that
out of it,
they
yeah.
might well be performing slightly better than we are.
I would have thought so, yeah. And another thing, in fairness to Munster, they didn't have to do a huge amount to beat us, but they did beat us. They beat us well, and fair play to them. Did a double on us the first time, and you got to hold. You can be negative about us all you want, but bit of positivity towards them. They are.
Let them set up their own Red Talk show and they can be positive about themselves. As far as I'm concerned, it's all about us.
It is. No, I agree with you, Dave. But the thing is, though, that there was 26,000 people at that match, and obviously because it was Stevens' day and so on, and there wasn't a large Leinster contingent going down for whatever reason. Probably mostly that the results on the pitch are just driving people a little bit away from it. But the point is, though, there was 26,000 people. Like, I remember being at that fixture 2 years ago when Dave Carney got a bang in the head. I was at it last year, and there was massive gaps on the terrace and in the seats.
And this year there wasn't, yeah.
Bandwagonist vulgaris Munsterum.
Well, no, I don't think so. If you look at our game against Ulster next week, it's sold out. That game is sold out. It's people coming home for. How many people have emigrated and they come home for Christmas? What are they going to do? They're going to go. They're going to want to go.
So the Ulster Leinster game is always a big seller. It always has.
The fact that there was no Leinster, very few Leinster fans there, and it was still sold out. Or very close to sold out. Yeah. Is because people are home for Christmas. So, yeah. That's
But there was actually more people at the Ulster match in Ravenhill than there was at the. Sorry, there was more people at the Ulster Connacht match in Ravenhill than there was at the Leinster Connacht match in the ODS, which probably the first for a long time that they're getting bigger numbers through the
Get used to it, because their capacity is roughly the same as ours now.
Yeah.
I think it's
slightly
about
higher,
five.
Isn't it?
I think it's 500 behind us.
Is it?
It could be wrong, but
higher.
it's in and around anyway.
Yeah.
So they're get used to them selling more seats than we do.
We've always, I mean, the Connacht match is one of those games that always pretty steady. 16,000. What always turns up for it. There's some games that no matter what you do, you can't. There's only one thing you can do with some games, and that's put Brad Thorne into them.
Yeah, I remember that Brad Thorne and O'Driscoll came back. O'Driscoll came back from injury at Ospreys, that's right, and Thorne made his debut.
The Ospreys game is one of those games. It was really, really weird. Ospreys game always averaged around 14,500, no matter who was playing. You could go in with full teams, you could go in with, if you like, Leinster light, 14,500, didn't matter. Yeah. Brad Thorne shows up, full house.
Yeah. But I remember Brad Thorne's first game against Connacht in an A match. I remember the three of us were at it, but there's about 800 or 900 people, took half days from work.
Yeah. I remember I was talking to Mick Dawson. He was disgusted that he hadn't thought of charging into it.
Yeah, I'd say he did. But anyway, Ulster narrowly beat Connacht 13-10 up in Ravenhill. I thought it was a good game.
Didn't see it.
Yeah,
didn't see
it
it.
was good.
I was
lovely try from
luxuriating in my pit of despair after the Leinster-Munster game and denying the existence of rugby.
I saw the first half and I thought it was decent, but an Ulster friend of mine told me not to bother watching the second half, that it was rubbish. But I don't know. Did you see the second half?
I did, yeah. But I was just saying to you earlier that I thought the funniest thing was when Roy McIlroy went round and the crowd started singing "Sweet Caroline."
How did Jackson go?
Jackson was poor. I thought he missed a couple of sitters at goal.
Yeah,
but it was his first game back. But
I
believe Pienaar might be back next week.
There's mixed reports on that. I don't
think he'll be back for us.
Some Ulster fans are saying he'll be back. Papers are saying he won't. Right. So who knows? Because I'll tell you the one thing about Ulster: it doesn't matter how good Jackson is or was. Without Pienaar, they're a different team.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about Pienaar is they don't want to risk him getting injured again, so they're hardly going to play him in a big interpro against us if he's not. There's absolutely 100%.
No point. Well, what else are they going to keep him for?
Out of Europe.
Well, I had already Europe. That's true.
If they want to rest him for European matches.
Europe, Sorry, wasn't thinking like that.
Other games.
Fair point.
Other games. Glasgow beat Edinburgh. No great surprise there, but they didn't get a bonus point. I suppose kept them in contention, or also in contention with them. And the other one, Ospreys beat Scarlets, as we kind of said already.
But I think
it wasn't quite the
fight
fest.
I was disappointed.
Wasn't the WWF or whatever that you were expecting?
No, I was a bit disappointed with that. Actually, the big result over the weekend for me was the continuing humiliation of Cardiff. Losing to the Dragons.
The Dragons at home. For only the second time since the Dragons' existence. I think it was the very first year of regionalisation was the only other time.
This is the team that were not only going to be the top Welsh team, they were going to be, pretty much the top Pro 12 team.
Well,
Yeah,
according
to Cardiff.
I think they were said they were going to be third, or some Welsh commentators were reckoning they'd be third in the league this year. Yeah, if they're third last, they'll
I
be
think
doing all
Warburton was out again, wasn't he?
I actually saw a good bit of that game, and I didn't see Sam Warburton, but that could have been because I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, I think he was injured actually. So anyway, next week we play Ulster. As we said,
The oldest fixture.
the oldest fixture in Irish rugby,
Yeah.
and pretty good attendances though over the Christmas. I suppose as you say, John, it is the Irish people coming home.
Yeah.
But like RDS or Leinster have said that game is a sellout.
Oh, it is. Yeah. There's nothing even on Ticket Exchange because somebody was looking for tickets there the other day.
Well, it's good to see because there's been an awful lot of negative articles written. It's just any opportunity to do down, whether it's the provinces or the national team, rugby in general, by some of the people in the media. And I think that it's good to see that there's people still willing to shell out a few bob to come and go. Even if they live abroad, they're coming back and they're going to see
You see, at the end of the day,
rugby game.
During winter in particular, it's the only top level sport game in town, rugby. The league hasn't started yet in Gaelic football and Gaelic games, and even when it does, it's still only the league. So we have winter and spring to ourselves traditionally. So if people want sports entertainment, to quote Vince McMahon, where else are they going to go for it? And they're going to get plenty of. You can complain about whether Leinster are playing well or playing badly, or Munster playing well, or whoever's playing well or badly. You're still going to see world class players.
and
And
they might even perform like world class.
and some of them might even perform like world class players. Plenty of them.
There's about 7 players that we were missing from that. Heaslip, Toner, Carney, Ross, Jack McGrath, Redden, and can't remember the last one, but
Bentia?
no, he's not an Irish.
Oh,
I'm
no,
thinking
sorry.
of
Oh,
Irish
sorry,
internationals
sorry.
that would have been arrested. No, he's injured. There was anyway. It doesn't matter who the last one is, but that's a
Cronin.
quality Cronin. That's a quality cohort of players, whereas Ulster are bringing back Rory Best and Tommy Bowe, and that's it. I think Trimble's still injured.
Henderson's injured.
Henderson's injured. Pienaar, we don't know. Touch and go.
The only thing is best is for them. He's their
Talisman.
best. They have Best and they have Pienaar. They're good to go, no matter who else is around them.
Yeah.
Because they're the lodestones for that team.
Roger Wilson is out, and they're pretty sparse in the back row as it is. So that's
And
probably
Nick Williams is out.
Nick
as
Williams
well.
is still out. That's probably Dyack to 8, and God knows,
Yeah.
what they're doing after that. So, it's a good time to be playing Ulster in the RDS. They don't have a lot of back row options, and we have, despite having Ruddock injured and having Kevin McLaughlin injured, we're in decent shape in the back row.
What's the story of Dominic Ryan? Does anyone know?
He's out as well. I heard something about concussion protocols, something like that.
Well, because I remember one thing. The advantage of not going to the game was you could hear Nigel ask the team doctor when he's been taken off. Do you want to give him the 10 minutes? And the doctor said no. He's coming off.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about it twice. So
Yeah. So
He got 2 bangs actually in the replay. You could see he got one on his way down and one just as he hit the ground.
one for safety.
well, that's 3. That's 3 sixes out. If you want to call him a 6, which I think is his best position.
I think so as well. Yeah.
You've got McLaughlin, Ruddock, and Dom Ryan. So that's Conan to 6. Not really any other options. And Heaslip and Jennings. Murphy on the bench, maybe.
Murphy to 6, maybe. I don't think Murphy suits 6 as well as Conan
No.
does. I don't think he does, but it's one that
Form
we
seems
don't.
to have
He's
fallen
too
off
short
the cliff.
for a line out.
Well, he got injured and he never really got a chance to get his form back, and he hasn't got it back yet. So
He will.
he will, but he's not there yet. Anyway, but yeah, no, I'd agree. I'd go Conan 6 myself.
That should be enough to look after. I mean, the players that we have available to come back. Well, we said this last week. The players that we have compared to what Munster have available should be able to do the business. You'd have to say the same again. So maybe the kick in the arse we got from Munster will stand us in good stead.
There are too many guys. In key positions. I'm very disappointed. I'm a big Isaac Boss fan. Very disappointed with him. I thought Madigan.
McGrath actually looked good when he came on.
Thought Madigan was disappointing.
Luke McGrath.
I thought Darcy looked slow. He did not just physically slow, but I don't want to use this. I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but he looked slow-witted on the pitch. He wasn't on it.
Gordon Darcy has a way of have been writing him off for
I'd never write off Gordon
20
Darcy
years.
ever.
Well, obviously 10 years, but people have been writing him off for 10 years, and every time he's come back, and they've had to eat their words.
I'd
You
never
know,
write
one
him
day
off,
that won't happen, but
but
hopefully
he did not
that
look
day
like
is a year
he
away
did
at
not-
least.
He did not look like a player who was demanding selection in the next match.
No.
Why was Noel Reid? Noel Reid didn't even make the bench.
I don't
Like,
understand.
he must
that
have had-
selection when he was man of the match, and he was warranted. Like he played very, very well. He deserved.
He must
a
have had
second
an eagle.
chance.
But he was on the bench. He was named on the bench, and
yeah.
then dropped off the bench. So
Collie O'Shea.
might have been one of these. You know what they do? One of these.
That's another thing, you know, Matt O'Connor's use of the bench isn't great, and he puts guys on the bench sometimes just because he feels he's no option and he's never going to use them barring injury. I was looking at the last 5 games, and we've had 4 unused subs in 2 or 3 of the games. We've had 3 unused subs in 2 of the other games. So, you know, there's a lot of this putting guys on the bench, and especially doing it with props. He's done that a couple of times where both props are left on the bench for the whole.
I would never let. I mean, I've
No
said
one
this.
does that.
We've been saying this for years that
Who even
props
does
should
that?
be off after an hour. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any reason for that. No, but the thing is, I mean, we've a lot of guys just not playing well. I mean, what does it do? The difference between which of our kind of out halves we pick is the difference between shit and shite. To be honest with you, they're both really, really poor, playing poorly. I don't know.
I don't know. I wouldn't say either of them actually are playing that poorly. They've had poor games, and they've had poor parts of games, and they've done poor things in games. But I think it's a bit harsh to say that they're both poor.
I want the out half to at least look like he's going to seize things and shake it up and turn it around because he's in charge.
Yeah.
Neither of them looked like they're in charge.
That's true.
Johnny Sexton, Ronan O'Gara, David,
They grabbed up by the
David
scruff of the
Humphries
neck. Yeah.
always look like they're in charge of a match. Now you might think what they're doing is the right thing, but they were in charge of it.
Yeah.
Madigan and Goppert, neither of them looks like they're in charge of Atten.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So rumors anyway that Ben Teal might be back.
Yeah.
So
Be interesting.
interesting. Like, and you were talking about Darcy's form not being great. at the
McFadden
moment.
back as well, allegedly. Which is, you know, he's a great asset, you know, can play all over the back line. So you could see stuff like him being started and Teo on the bench to move Luke out to the wing, or Kirshner to put.
If Teo's fit, he has to get because he's played 20
Get
minutes
some
rugby
game time,
union.
yeah.
You know, he needs to play rugby.
And this is a reasonable game to try him in.
Yeah.
It's in the RDS. It's in front of our home fans. It's
But he's also up against, and he'll also be the other side of that is he'll be up against good players as well.
Yeah.
So he'll know the stand where he's standing. You know, I mean, there's no point in taking the field against rubbish.
well. He's had a lot of training time. Presumably, he's
Yeah.
had a chance to actually get his head around the game and get his head around the setup, and he's settled into the place a bit better, I'm sure. So we also have if we have guys like McFadden available, we also have the flexibility in the back line to be able to have him on for 20 minutes either at the end or at the beginning or at the we have the capability to fit him in whatever way.
Yeah.
And get him some game time.
I just think it's important that he racks up the minutes because I mean.
He'd be a great asset to
What do we
have.
buy him for if we're not going to play him?
Exactly,
These are
but
the games you got to play.
He'd be a great asset to have coming off the bench against somebody like Wasps. You know,
I
hitting
prefer
a
he
few
was a great
tired.
asset to have starting against Wasps.
Well, hitting a few tired bodies at the end of the Wasps game or something like that, or starting whichever. But making holes, either tiring them out and running through them early, or coming on when they are tired out and running through them.
That's the thing. The interesting thing is we don't know what kind of player Ben Teal is going to be.
Well, you've got to assume with the way we've been playing over the last year and a half that he's there to run through and over and possibly sometimes around people. And that's if we're lacking ball carriers, if the style of game we're playing is missing Sean O'Brien, is missing Keane Healy, is missing Reece Ruddock, a guy
Any
like that
update
is
on
going to
those
be
two lads?
an asset. They're both back training.
Yeah, in
Have
full
been for
training,
a while.
they're increasing contact as well, so we'll see.
Sometime in January.
Sometime, maybe a week too soon.
Yeah, but
Well, I think
suppose
Healy
both
is
of them
ahead.
I'd say both of them are fairly anxious to get back as
Absolutely,
ASAP.
Coming
with
to get
the
back.
Six Nations
yeah.
is
Dying to
is
get
around
back.
the corner.
Absolutely dying to get back. Both of them, I'd say.
I think Healy is ahead of O'Brien
Yeah.
and Terry. He might be a week or two ahead of him, so you might see him more first, Healy second, O'Brien third is the way it seems to be shaping up in terms of when they'll be back. So you could see more starting or been available for Cardiff. play through the other 2 European matches, and Healy may or may not make 1 or 2 of the European matches, and O'Brien, I don't know, they might just not risk him till after give him the extra few weeks and start him with Ireland. But
Good luck stopping him.
well, that's true, but I mean, we do have Italy up first,
Yeah.
so that's that'll get him up a bit of speed if he's available for that, And the last thing anybody in Ireland or Leinster management wants to do is get Sean O'Brien back and get him injured again
Yeah.
because he's not ready. We'd rather not have him back, because if we're missing him for an extra few weeks at the beginning and he comes back and he plays himself in and it all goes well, that's great. But if we get him back a week or 2 earlier and he wrecks himself and he's gone for the whole Six Nations,
Yeah, that's a fair point. But I think at a certain point players have to play. At a certain point in your recovery from an injury, you have to get back out there. And Sean would be one of these who'd rather do it sooner than later.
Yeah, I'd say he's the kind of a guy you'd have to
Hold back,
and I'm not volunteering for that job.
Well, it's interesting. I was going to say that both the Scottish and the Welsh, well, obviously Scotland, they don't have any other option but to play
each other
in a back-to-back. But they've decided to do the same in Wales this weekend as well. That Scarlets play Ospreys and Cardiff play Newport. So anyway, Edinburgh hosts Glasgow in the real library.
Elephant's Graveyard.
So yes, the annual slaughter of the effeminates continues. Edinburgh put it up to them. Okay, they never looked like they were going to win or even come close, but they didn't get hockeyed like we possibly expected. They didn't give up a losing or a winning bonus point to Glasgow, and that was in Glasgow. So chances are if they can stop them getting the winning bonus point again next week, it's got to be good for the other teams in the top 4 because Edinburgh are good for.
I think Edinburgh under Solomon should change their jerseys to Magnolia.
That's
what they are.
Meh.
Yeah, that's what I said it last week. I mean, they're the same as Ulster were under Solomon's. I mean, they're neither fish nor good red meat.
But it's amazing how some coaches like these guys just get continual pick-up jobs around the world. Like, I
mean, Solomon's went from that time at Ulster, which couldn't be described as a success. I mean, he picked up a Pro 12 or a Celtic League, but apart from that was it. I mean, he never got out of the group or anything like that.
Celtic Cup, I think he picked up.
Yeah, he picked up did he not pick up a Celtic League? Anyway, he picked up a Celtic-y thing.
Yeah.
And then, got a Super 12 franchise or a prospective Super 12 franchise. Certainly got to play the Lions anyway.
Yeah. Southern Kings.
He's one of these guys who seems to fail upwards.
But there seems to be a lot, like even across other sports, it's the same kind of thing. Like Brian Robson got so many gigs, got fired, and got another job in a few.
At least I could understand why Brian Robson got them, because at least he had name recognition. I mean, he was England captain for a very long time and captain of Man United. Solomon says, I don't know.
What happened in the Italian derby? I actually missed that altogether.
Treviso beat Zebre.
Yeah, okay, so that closes up the bottom of the table because they were 4 points behind, so they must be neck and neck now. It was in Treviso, I presume?
No, it was in
Zebre.
Zebre.
It was in Zebre? Oh, God. Okay. That's a bit of a mess. I was hoping Zebre would pull away there and,
Disinterest Treviso.
Maybe, just that there'd be a definite team coming out of the Italian and that they wouldn't be the last 2 teams in the league. I was hoping one of them would pull away a place or 2 and get up to make it not look so bad when they get pulled up into the Champions Cup, But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. And it's Treviso are in it this season, so it'd be nice to get Zebre in it next season. Anyway.
Do you have anything else?
No, I don't care about rugby anymore.
All right, I'll wrap it up then, will I?
Well,
I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, you may as well.
Okay.
Go on.
All right, well, thanks a million, boys, and thanks a million for watching, and have a very happy New Year. Cheers.